Hello, hi, good evening, Deepak.
Hey, good evening. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. How about you?
All well so far, so good. Hi, Arun. Hi, Ashwin.
Excellent, excellent. How has been the week so far for you?
Hectic, very hectic. I'm already feeling sleepy.
All right, we will try to ensure that this session does not make you feel sleepy because we want to extract all the wisdom from you. So we'll make sure that you are up and running at least for another 60 minutes.
Absolutely.
So this is going live on YouTube or it will be only on Zoom?
It will go live on YouTube, LinkedIn, as well as Facebook.
Okay. Any idea how many people will be joining? 100, 200?
So more the better. So what happens is the audience gets distributed across different platforms. Yesterday, there were almost 40, 50 people live on Zoom itself. And the number keeps on changing somewhere around 30 plus on Zoom. And the other platforms, I don't have those numbers handy with me. Were you able to circulate the message in your circle as well?
This one?
Yeah.
I've sent to my marketing team. I don't know where they have circulated.
Interesting. So,
But I mean,
today,
just send me the link after this.
absolutely, we'll do that. We'll shoot you an email with all the information so that you can share it on your platform as well. Wow, we also have Ritesh joining in. Team, can I just put a spot on Ritesh as well? Hello.
Good morning. How are you?
We are doing fantastic. Good morning, Ritesh. How are you doing?
Sorry, I'm late. Yes, I think
yeah,
it's the Friday before the long holiday, so lots of work today.
Yes. Deepak was also mentioning that he has had a very tiring day and of course the week as well. And for Arun, the week doesn't even end on Friday. For him, it's Saturday evening. So,
all right, that's right.
Yes.
Arun, you're lucky that way. If my ends on Sunday evening also, I'm lucky.
Lovely. All right, guys. So we are live already. Let me just start with the session. Good morning, good evening, and good afternoon, everybody. I am Prayank Khandelwal, founding partner at Photon Legal. Today, we are into day 4 of our Health Tech Summit. We have been talking about different challenges, success stories, and amazing innovation which is coming out of health tech domain. And we have been interacting with investors, founders, entrepreneurs, people who are marketing gurus in the health tech industries. And today we have such uh, three amazing speakers with us. One is Arun, who is the founder, while Ritesh is a marketing guru, and Deepak is an investor. So we have such a distinguished panel today. Thank you so much, guys, for joining this panel with us, and we'll go into different details of the health tech domain altogether today. We've had fantastic chats over the last 3 days, and I'm sure today's discussion is also going to be an eye-opening plus a very much knowledge-rich session. Before I get into introduction of all of you guys, I want to talk about how difficult it is to start your entrepreneurial journey in the health tech domain. This is, in my opinion, one of the toughest domain to actually enter into entrepreneurship is health tech. In health tech, you are not just building a product or a solution or scaling a company at a greater level, but you are also accountable and responsible for the lives of so many people who are part of the ecosystem. And to be an entrepreneur in this domain itself is a tough ask, very difficult decision as well. Plus, you require a lot of determination, grit, and passion to pursue a topic which is dear to your heart. And one such founder today is with us. His name is Arun Agrawal, who's the founder at Geni3. Interesting fact about him: he loves the traveling and going across the country and intercountry as well on his Royal Enfield bike. He's a solo founder. He's an engineering grad turned biomedical engineer. He's done his master's in biomedical. He also worked as an IP analyst for a few years and then started Janitri, which is into improving maternal as well as child healthcare. This has been an amazing journey, Arun, and I'm sure this journey wouldn't have been a smooth sailing. It would have been filled up with ups and lows, highs and lows. I want to understand from you how has been the journey so far, and what's your motivation?
Great. Priyank, first of all, thank you for having me here. Welcome, everyone. So, interesting question. I mean, you started why health tech is hard. So, I mean, what I think is starting from an idea to a go-to-market itself, the whole time frame in health tech is large in comparison to other segment or other verticals. So I mean, as a founder, if you are thinking ki, okay, let's build something in health tech, med tech, at least try to define ki, okay, I'm at least going to try for the next 4 or 5 years before I take any other decision. Otherwise you will not even touch or you will not even get that sort of a feedback ki whether it's a wrong product or wrong problem statement or it's a wrong business strategy.
Right.
So I mean, this is something which I would say. So that is what I have given to myself initially when I started Janitri. Okay, whatever is going to happen, let me at least dedicate myself for 5 years. And then in 5 years, you realize, okay, things are growing, happening and taking shape. But interesting has been, my journey has been interesting in terms of, I come from an engineering background. I always wanted to solve some healthcare problems through technology at scale. And hence one of the reason I decided to first understand how technology is working in healthcare and go for the master's in biomedical engineering. And that gave me a good idea. I worked on certain projects, includes non-invasive glucometer funded by Government of India during my master's. And so that gave me an overall idea of how technology can actually scale work in healthcare, can save life. But interestingly, as a founder, you really have to figure out what is that problem you have to solve. So you have to definitely define that problem in very deep. But so I was not very much clear after my master's at what problem. And so by chance, then to survive myself financially, I landed into as a patent analyst in healthcare. And my weekends and after office hour, I started spending time on finding the problem. And that took almost 2 years to figure out, okay, I can do something in mother and child healthcare, and then decided to start Janitri. So I would always say that at different platforms also that do your problem validation and identification thoroughly before even thinking about the solution. Sometimes we think as an engineer, we have a lot of solution in our mind and we try to build solution and try to push that on the problem. So, but as an entrepreneur, please do oppose. I mean, do this opposite. Just try to think, validate the problem first, and then I think solution will be simple. But yeah, it has been interesting, rewarding journey. But definitely the cycle is long. So patience is definitely needed.
Absolutely. I completely understand. Thank you so much for sharing such an opening remark. And a couple of points which I could note down is get the problem validation first. And you also spoke about scaling the particular idea at a greater level. With the scale, I want to go to Ritesh. So Ritesh has been a senior partner at Fin Partners. And when I look at your profile, Ritesh, it has 30 years of vast experience. And you worked in almost 14 plus different organizations as well at a different role. But one thing which stood out to me were 3 words: digital transformation, healthcare, and innovation. So we would love to know more about you, what you do, why you do, and why do you love this digital healthcare and transformation and innovation in this particular domain so much? Over to you, Ritesh.
Well, first of all, thanks for stalking my LinkedIn. That's very kind of you. Not many people do that, so I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Look, I got into this healthcare thing 10 years ago. Before that, I was in IT in major corporations. I've done digital. And I got the digital bug when I sort of moved to the US during Web 1.0. And we were doing some crazy stuff with HTML 1.0, which was interesting. And you can see the value of technology and the way it can disrupt industries. The biggest industry change that I saw during those times was the travel industry, where I started my life as a travel agent and taking phone calls and booking flights. And now people don't even think about it, right? The internet. But in 1997, when British Airways asked us to build a booking engine so that they could sell tickets online, we looked at each other like they were from Mars, right? So now it's completely accepted. So it's the same in healthcare. I think healthcare has struggled for such a long time with the people delivering care, and the technology that is out there can actually change and disrupt a lot of things that we currently take granted for. For example, in the US where I am, the GP is being completely disrupted. Right. Before, if I had a sick child, I used to have to call 2 a.m. Yes, come and see. You take them, put them in a car, you drive to the doctor, you sit in the waiting room at 9 a.m., wait for them to show up at 9:30. They look at the ears, they check the nose, they check the temperature, and they give you a prescription for some antibiotic and send you on your way. Well, now 2 a.m, I have a telehealth visit with a doctor. They send a prescription at 6 a.m. CVS is delivering the prescription to my house, and I don't have to leave, right? So little things like FaceTime now being applied to healthcare, right? So that's why innovation really intrigues me, is how can we use these consumer things that we take for granted in our daily lives and deploy them without harming the patient? I mean, what Arun and Deepak are doing probably is greater scale and doing things differently, but the mundane can also be done very, very quickly, right? Very, very quickly using technology, and the innovation can be incremental, not disruptive. So that's what I focus on, is what can we do 10 months from now, 18 months from now? To Arun's point, healthcare is, because of all the regulatory and the legal issues you face, and if you get it wrong, people might die. As opposed to selling a ticket online, if you get it wrong, well, you charge the wrong price. You're still going to get to Mumbai, right?
You're right.
You have to be very careful as well. So those are the two things I focus on, is how can we make this work? And then the third thing is, in my day job, I do a lot of work with startup innovators. And the one guidance I give them when I start talking to them, this morning I had a call with Wasim, who's the founder of a company called Delve. Delve has created a middleware technology platform to connect any wearable to their platform for clinical trials, right? Everybody focuses on the technology. And the first question I ask is, to Arun's point, what's the use case? What's the problem you're trying to solve? Is the problem that I can't get data from the wearables, or is the problem quality data that the pharma company needs from these devices? Because how you message and how you sell and how you brand and how you position should not be based on your technology, but the problem you're solving. Why does it matter to me? And it's so many founders get so hung up on my tech. You look at this, it's innovative. And I'm like, yeah, there's 9 other guys who have the same tech. So what's the difference with what you have versus what somebody else has? So that's my day job. That's what I do on a daily basis.
Fantastic. Great. Yes. This is great. This is inspiring. I mean, a lot of wisdom to learn from you, and so many points actually I could note down within this short introduction which you gave about what you do and why you do it. And one thing which emerges out is the focus on looking at even the mundane things from a different perspective. Even if you just change the perspective, that's where the innovation can come from. That's where the innovation rises. And oftentimes we neglect the obvious, right? And we have a habit of overcoming obviousness.
Exactly. And I'd say technology is sometimes technology is not the answer, right? For example, a guy I spoke to recently you know, adherence is a major problem in the pharma industry. People don't take all of
Correct.
their medication, right? In the US, that's an $80 billion problem, $80 billion, right? So
Mhm.
what he's done is he's trying to get pharma to do just one simple thing. You get a pill with 12 pills in it. The doctor says, take all 12. So what he said is, let's color the 10 white, but take 2 and make them blue. And the
Mhm.
doctor says, take the 2 blue ones last. That's it. If you take the
Right.
the 2 blue ones last, you're going to take the 10 white first.
Right.
So
Right.
it's
Different
not
perspective.
about
Yes.
pushing a text message to remind you or whatever. It's just change your perception. If you take the 2
Yeah.
blue pills last, you're going to take the whole 10 white pills first, right? So when people listening, 9 times out of 10, if there's a use case, tech may be an answer, but it could be a human change of behavior that could be the answer. So when you think about those things, think about perception as well.
Fantastic. Good point. Good point. Yes. When you're thinking of an use case, think that technology cannot always be the solution. I mean, these days people end up, let's say, what is in trend? In trend, it's generative AI, GPT, LLM. All right. AI, let me just put AI around whatever use case I'm trying to solve and hope that I will get an investment or funding. And yes, I see Deepak smiling there. So Deepak, my next I want to talk to you about this as well. So, as a seasoned investor, you have been into this PE and VC space for more than 2 decades now. You particularly invest in early stage startups, and I'm sure, as Ritesh mentioned, 9 out of 10 times people would come to you with different use cases, different problems which they are trying to solve, and in today's time they would also have blend of tech to it. Maybe they are saying, I'm using AI to do XYZ, I'm using generative AI to doing ABC, and just give me funding. So how easy or difficult has it been for you in picking up these startup opportunities for investing?
Got it. Got it. Thanks, Priyank, for having me here, and great listening to Arun and Ritesh on many of these points. So, thanks for this panel. Just first of all, very quickly, wanted to talk about very 30-second download on Dexter. We are one of the early stage fund getting our AIF done recently. We do very early stage investments, sort of seed and pre-seed. We have so far invested in 35 startups. Many of them are in the health tech space as well. So we're sector agnostic, but yeah, I mean, obviously we've been doing the health tech investments also. So to get to your question that you are talking about, obviously, I mean, one of the questions that you asked Arun earlier, that how hard it is to be an entrepreneur, and specifically in the health tech space, I think probably it goes the same, that how hard it is to be an investor in the in overall, or even in the being in entrepreneur in the health tech space, or the investor in the health tech space, because there are so many moving parts. I think one of the major thing that we learned over a period of time, and specifically during COVID, is that not only the use cases or the problem statement keep redefining themselves over a period of time. That's not the only thing, but there are whole of ecosystem has to play in, and specifically that's true in the health tech space. So when you're investing in the health tech space, you also have to see that obviously apart from regulatory that you have to kind of keep looking at, and many other areas as well. But at the same time, one of the major concern that we see, and specifically when you say, which you asked as well, the tech, is that you're trying to solve something with the tech, but whether the tech is actually required for solving that particular problem. Exactly what Ritesh has said some time back. Maybe you don't really need a disruptive innovation. You probably just need an incremental innovation, but it solves the problem. It probably solves the even a mundane problem, but that probably has a value. So you have to define that, and that's where the a lot of the times the problem lies. We see at many other times, obviously, entrepreneurs are passionate, they try to solve hard problems, and obviously, they've been working hard on this. The problem sometimes is that you are trying to solve problems probably where the market is still is not very defined. So like
Mhm.
I've seen, yeah, I've been an investor from a earlier avatar in a deep tech fund wherein we had evaluated a startup which were trying to solve a problem where the market still wasn't there. So they probably were very late in their journey in talking to the first-hand customers, after doing
Okay.
probably years of research, and then talking to the hospitals, talking to the nursing homes, and many other ecosystem players, where they said that, obviously, it's a problem to solve, but then we're not going to pay for it. We probably would put more people onto it, but then we're going to pay for a solution if it, is expensive. So yeah, that's the one of the challenge that we face all the time. And also at the same time, obviously there are other main challenges which are there in investing in anyways, which is there, the regulatory is there, the keep changing the domain itself. That's another problem. So same is there for health tech as well. But yeah, I mean, health tech is I think one of the areas where you probably are always been on your toes.
Perfect. Great points shared by you, Deepak. And one of the good points which you mentioned is that it's very important as a founder to identify the right timing in the market. Because if the market, even if you have a great product, but there is no one else to buy, then who do you sell the product to? Right? Ultimately, because the passion is not going to pay the bills. You will require revenue. You will require the money coming in, the cash coming into the bank so that everybody is happy. And ultimately, all the entrepreneurs' main job is to keep everybody happy who's part of the ecosystem. So I want to understand from you, Arun, is that so I was going through the Shark Tank episode of yours. Many congratulations, Arun, on that. In season 2, you were on the Shark Tank and also got the deal. One of the interesting thing which stuck with me was that you mentioned it took you almost 5 years before you launched first product in the market at Geni 3. How has been that 5 years? Did you go to so many customers? Did you go to the nursing homes, hospitals, and collected data? Can you just walk us through that 5 years of journey? If you faced some challenges, would love to know those challenges as well. Over to you.
Great. Yeah. So thank you for this. We definitely managed to feature on Shark Tank and raised the money, and that's definitely gave us the kick. But yeah, this happened because of that past 5-6 years of work. So when I look at those 5 years from the idea to the product launch in the market, which have started revenue. So multiple iteration in the product, multiple clinical trials, regulatory approvals. So definitely it has gone through all these phases, and the challenge is now. It was definitely one of the challenge was the money to execute that. We managed to survive through grants because there were some grants available from Government of India. We have been funded by Gates Foundation, Government of Canada, Willgrow, Government of Karnataka, because we are in Bangalore, through Startup India policy, and also grants have helped us in surviving. But those grants, you cannot plan based on those grants. Ultimately, that's another challenge, because those come sometime on time, then do not come on time. And unfortunately, still in India, you find very, very less health tech investor. So that's one of the very fortunate situation as of today. And that is where that is where we face the challenge. We managed to bring partnership in terms of clinical trial. We managed to bring some engineers who were working on prototypes and all. But I would have seen that if there was a money available, I would have accelerated this process. After this, I have brought the second product in 2.5 years. So we recently have launched another product, and which took us 2.5 years, almost 50% of the time.
Very good.
So, and because now we also have connected with the ecosystem, like in terms of manufacturers, in terms of, we also had a couple of learnings. So regulatory approval, outsourcing. So those things definitely have helped. But apart from that, money was also there to accelerate that journey. So I would say, still India needs a lot of money in the healthcare entrepreneurs and startup, and also the expertise. Because till now, you see, when I talk about medtech, more than 95% all medical devices are getting imported. So even from the technology expertise wise, we do not have, right? Somebody who can build your product, or somebody who know regulatory approval. All these expertise are also do not exist. So it definitely was a challenging, and definitely you need sort of a dedication, patience and all to keep surviving, to get the money from here and there, and making sure that, okay, launch.
Very
Gosh,
good.
I
Good
might
point.
have to move to India.
Sorry,
You've
Ritesh?
just I said I might have to move to India. Sounds like there's a big opportunity there, right? I mean, I have to Reliance tried 2 years ago or 3 years ago, I believe. Reliance Industries had this whole health group that they created from the mobile phone business, right? And they were trying to get into the health tech business. They spent, I thought, hundreds of thousands, but they didn't get anywhere. So Arun, to my question to you as the outsider on this call is, if people like Reliance fail, right, you've done an amazing job, right?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that because I also have a lot of fellow medtech and health tech founders, which I know since last 7 or 8 years. So it's, and many of them have shut down their shop, unfortunately, and only a couple of them have into Series A or Series B kind of a stage. Couple of them are still at seed or pre-Series A. So when I look at these numbers, that percentage is very, very low. But I would say that there's something happened in last 10 years which actually have increased the pipeline of these health tech entrepreneurs, which are grants. So there are a lot of grants which government has pumped in. So at least that pipeline has increased, at least that seed grant from idea to POC. So I would say that that's a commendable job government have done, and at least if there is no investor, there is some grant available.
All right, good point. So access to capital has, of course, been the need for any startup, but in the health tech, because of the extensive cost at the regulatory as well as the legal side of things, the need becomes very much obvious. And fortunately, unfortunately, the scenario in the country was that predominantly India has been known for services business. In the last 10 years, the situation has been changing. We are coming up with different products now. We have so many tech companies in the country, and so much more capital is also coming into the country. And yes, the government is right up there, understanding the vision to make India great, to make India a first world nation. And that's why the government grants are coming in. I want to understand from Deepak. So Deepak, as Arun mentioned, had he been given the access to capital at an early stage, he would have not taken 5 years to launch his first product. So when you advise, or when you get on board with these early stage startups, most of the times with or without even an MVP, I assume you guys must be getting in touch with them at an idea stage itself. What do you look into any particular founding team or the startup or in the idea which makes you to write a check for them and give your blessing, say that, okay, this is very good area, go ahead. What do you look for when you're investing at early stage, typically in the health tech domain? Because this is not a shorter game, it's a long game, it's an infinite game, right? Nobody knows when it's going to end, when you are going to actually create the impact. So what do you look for?
Got it. Of course. So I think, first of all, I completely resonate with what Arun has said. Sometime probably in 2015, when we started our first deep tech fund, at that time, probably the deep tech word itself wasn't a sort of pretty well discussed in the country. Most of the people were either doing consumer or they were doing B2B, but trying to sell into the US market. So that was their sort of nirvana, wherein if you have figured out your US or a Europe GTM, and that could be like, is something that would lead you to a good Series A or Series B. And also to what Arun said, there are not too many entrepreneurs which have raised Series A, Series B funding, specifically in the health tech space. given that the funding ecosystem itself is sort of new, and then within that, in health tech is prominently has been driven by either the consumer tech startups, or mostly by the founders who are doing something which probably what Arun has said could probably fit for a grant, then or VC funding at a later point. Some of the very, very prominent things that we look at, even irrespective of whether it's a health tech or non, is the founder profile, which becomes very, very important for even any VC who's been investing in a seed stage. Now, putting that layer on top of it to a health tech, I think it becomes even more important. The domain is very, very important. Let's say if today Arun has not been from a health tech background, it will be very, very hard for him to maneuver through this whole ecosystem. It will be very hard for him to probably talk to some of the ecosystem players, and then get into the doors where you could, or it could probably elongate the journey. So what you will have to do is, specifically in our case, what we do is look for the domain. Your founding team has to have the domain. It has to have the experience. It has to have the experience of probably running a business. We don't do too many investments where, let's say, and all due respect to them, but won't do probably a 21, 22-year-old kids who drop out of college and then start a
Right.
they're doing great. Obviously, they're very, very important. And then second piece is
Are we
We're
losing
losing
Deepak?
Deepak, yeah.
Okay.
and that's the thing. Can you guys hear me?
Now we can. Yes. We lost you for almost like 20 seconds.
Oh, okay, got it. So what I was saying is that, the other thing becomes the very important is the idea, and then the validation of that particular idea. Because what happens is that, for us, if you are trying a particular idea, and if you have not validated that through talking to customers, have not done it sampling that idea with at least, let's say, of about 20, 30 customers who would probably buy that product when you are going to launch that into the market, that is a kind of a non-starter for us. So that is something that we stress on very, very high. We probably grill over the founders, or even ask them to even do that before they even either try us, or maybe do that journey with us as well. And I think one of the other things that becomes very important, probably the third, but still important, is the market. How big is that market? Is that market even exist? Is the problem that you're trying to solve has big enough outcome? Because obviously,
Right.
we are looking for making returns for our own LPs. So in that case, kind of becomes very, very important that we create enough value for not only for our investors, but the founders and everyone in the ecosystem. So these are the few things that we
Deepak, what about business models? Do you look at those things and sort of give guidance to entrepreneurs as they come to you around potential business models they could apply for revenue? Yeah.
Of course, we do that. I think the business model, when you're probably going in, is important, but I think we also seen that the business models keep changing. So let's say you're going into a particular market, you try certain things, it doesn't work, and obviously, we are there. Some of the experts in our own panel who are there, they guide them through. Obviously, they have been there, done that, so they know how this thing probably might work in a certain specific market. In certain places, it doesn't work. How do you maneuver through that ecosystem is something. So that's where I think the business model is obviously a critical item in our list of things that we look at. Probably as the entrepreneur is new and specifically in seed stages, they figure it out. They know that, over a period of time, we will figure out how to make money.
Fantastic. So business model is basically dynamic. As long as Deepak and his team is there, you have the blessings, their blessings and the network as well. They'll help you steer the way and ensure that you make money, you make some handsome returns to the investor as well as the people who are involved in the entire process. Great point, Deepak, you highlighted about idea and execution and also market validation is something which is very important. And these are the three key aspects which goes into it, plus also the maturity level of the founder. And instead of somebody who's just coming out like 20-year-old might not have that much of experience when it comes to the domain, which is health tech, which is much more deep rooted and has a different challenge altogether. You go for that kind of experience as well before you put a dime onto anybody. Great point, great share. Thank you so much. I want to move to Ritesh and understand from you. So what primarily you do is you're saying you are taking care of digital transformation on an omni-channel platforms based for health tech or healthcare industry as a whole. So I want to understand from you, how is digital transformation or brand building for an healthcare industry is different than any other industry, be it FMCG or the software companies doing XYZ or a SaaS industry? What goes different in creating a story around a healthcare business versus any other business?
There isn't much difference in per se, but I think it's more around, as I said earlier, most of the use cases seem to be focused on technology fixing a problem, or somebody's come up with a use case that they're now looking for technology to fix. The biggest issue and the biggest soapbox item that I get on is around the customer experience. So the tech may be amazing, but if the experience is horrible, it's never going to take off. So what we basically work on in is two areas. One is, as I said earlier, what is that technology? Does it really do the thing it says on the tin? But then what is that experience and what's the use case and how are you going to message about your product or service to the customer? And there are two types. In medtech, you either go B2C, because you believe the customer is the patient or the consumer who's going to buy your product, or you have to do a B2B2C, because you have to convince the doctor to do something with the product. So the doctor has to recommend the product to the patient, right? There is a B2B2C where the insurance company here in the US does that, right? Or the government may do that in the single payer markets. Both require different ways of engaging and thinking about what your messaging and your positioning is in the market. If it's a B2B2C, the value is to the convincing the person who is going to be either prescribing or providing that technology to that patient. So the experience is more geared to that person, the doctor or the nurse or the office administrator, or in the case of hospitals, the buying committee that you have to convince that this product will fit your hospital and you have to have it in your hospital, right? But if it's a B2C product, it has to be absolutely driven by brand and customer experience. Forget what the tech does. Couldn't care less, right? What is the brand positioning and what's the experience for me? Why is it mattering to me that I go to the store and buy it, right? And those are the things that we sort of focus on more than anything else going forward. Then there's the value proposition, obviously, which is why I asked Deepak about the business model, right? For it, and a prime example I can give you, here in the US, there's a company called AliveCor, which has a handheld EKG device. It literally is about this big. Doctor can slip it in their pocket. You can go around with it. They spend $300,000 a month on TV advertising here in the US, direct to consumer. But why am I going to buy this? I'll either buy this if I'm an athlete, because I want to check it's a 6-lead EKG, right? It is really good. So I'm sitting there talking to the CEO saying, but go to the hospitals. Every doctor and nurse should have one. It's $79 for this device. The nurse doesn't have to wheel you down into the basement to put things all over you to get your EKG. The doctor can touch your knee and get it, straight away. Why aren't you going B2B? But the whole business has been built on B2C, right? So they get the devices, it's like a Fitbit. People buy it, they use it once, and they put it in the drawer. So you got to think about that. And so now they're raising more money. Now they're at Series D and they've raised another millions, hundreds of millions of dollars. But there's no long tail here. The real problem here is you're solving is a B2B problem that you can solve. An EKG machine in a hospital is north of $70,000, $80,000. For that much money, you can give every doctor and nurse in that building an AliveCor handheld EKG, which is a 6 lead and as accurate as a 6 lead that they put on your body.
Very
so
good.
It's those kinds of things that we work to say, how do you make that work? And then what's your positioning look like? Did I answer your question?
Yes. With a very fantastic example as well, which is very much applicable to Arun as well. I'll come to you that Arun with this question. But before I move forward, Ritesh, I have a follow-up question to you. So you mentioned that there are two typical business models in the health tech which can go or which are very popular, B2C and B2B2C as well. Some companies also exist in the B2B domain, fairly large in size, not the small ones. Now, I mean, in last 3 decades of your experience, you have seen how the advertisement industry overall has evolved, right? From the print media to the televisions to the radios to now social media. And today we are living in the age of TikToks and Instagram. And all this has led to destruction of your attention span. Destruction, I'm choosing this word intentionally. Currently, people do not have attention span for more than 7-8 seconds, right? And in this such short attention span age, how do you convey your stories so that your end consumer who's or your customers who are basically these founders of these companies are able to make money using their B2B2C or B2B or B2C channels? How do you convey your story in such short attention span world?
So one thing I will disagree with you on, I don't think we've lost the attention span. Here's why. You will binge a movie or a TV series if the content is good. It's not an attention span issue, right? If the content is good, we will sit through it for hours. It's the issue is around crap content, right? So for those on this call, if you're thinking about that, then I would say, think of it in 3 categories in the ad business. And this is what I sort of guide. 1, what are you building long-term? What is this long tail that you're building? And the example I use is Amazon. Amazon 20 years ago was just a company that was selling books online, but there was a long tail model there, right? That we are going to be in this for the long term. So what is your long tail for the brand? Is the brand long tail that it stands for me delivering new innovative products in health tech? Great. Then quarterly, think about the things that rally up to that brand. So do I do something as a TV series, or do I do something in a print ad, or do I get a bunch of doctors together to talk about it on a quarterly basis? So every quarter you're doing some really interesting big things around building that brand. And then there's the moment things. That's where the TikToks and the Instagrams fit in right now. They don't fit in the long term. Instagram and TikTok particularly are very moment oriented. It's around that moment in time that I want to get something done. So I follow about 80 doctors and about 120 nurses on TikTok. Each have their building their brands, right? So go find those doctors, go find those maternal nurses, Arun, and give them a capability of doing a TikTok video about using your products. But that's a moment in time. It's not going to build your brand long term. So that's how I would separate this. Take advantage of that moment in time when somebody's scrolling and go, oh, what the heck is this? But that's not because we don't have an attention span. It's just I've got, I'm having my samosas and my chai and I got my phone on my hand. Off I go. That doesn't build the brand. The brand building has to occur for the long term. What does my brand stand for? What is the value of this brand? What are the products that this brand will create and put into the marketplace? So that's how I think about it. Long-term, quarterly, and moments.
Very good. Nicely put, long-term, quarterly, and moments. though you have explained it beautifully using a health tech example, I'm sure at Photon I'm going to use that as well, and I'm going to steal this. Thanks for sharing this.
Go for it.
It's
I
very
even
much
have a whole
applicable.
deck if you want to get. I'll send it to you.
Perfect. I would love to have that. I mean, and that's also, I mean, it's always an advantage to have a discussion with someone who has been at Ogilvy for so long, right? So all the wisdom is naturally flowing, and you are such a great giver, Ritesh. Thanks for sharing that. And coming back to Arun,
I
yeah,
just wanted
go
to
ahead,
have
Deepak.
one quick follow-up onto that, what Ritesh has said. So, Ritesh, I just want to also understand that if there is a startup which is probably looking at building a global first product, and they are thinking that, probably I'll use India as a test market. I think that, doing that for about 6 to 8 months or 9 months, maybe I will be able to get my product to the perfection and then launch into the other markets. What do you think is better, the day first, US or Europe, or day first India, try, test, and then maybe 9 months you can probably think about doing the same thing in US, and then it kind of I mean, obviously there's always a journey or a learning, but you could use all of those learnings from India to that market.
Yeah. And I'm working with a couple of Indian startups that are coming to the US. Cure AI is one of them, who are sort of thinking about the US market now. Here's the thing, markets, the size of markets, the US and India are comparable. There may be some infrastructure things that are a little different and some legal and regulatory things are different, but sizes of markets wise, India and US are comparable. So if you can make it in India, then it's easy to come to the US because you've done that journey from a market size perspective. However, it depends on the product and the service, because in some cases, it may be better off going to Singapore and Malaysia and Indonesia next, as opposed to coming to the US. Which is a better journey to take, because you can trial and test different things in those markets, and those markets are very what's the word I'm looking for?
Unforgiving,
appealing, and also they welcome Indian companies coming to those markets. So if you don't have the capital base, the biggest issue in coming to the US is you need a capital base to do that. To Arun's point, you'll take 5 years to do it in India. Once you get to the US, plan another 5 years, right? Wow. Whereby you can do it 5 years in India, and then within 6 months, you can do Singapore and then Thailand, right? Do those and then come to the US, because then you've got a good base to raise capital from for that next growth capital. So you've got your seed and your series A and B, look at those markets. And then when you want to go for growth capital in series C, that's when you come to the US, because the market here, each one is, and it's becoming fragmented. So there are laws that are coming into place in the US where states are different. So depending on what your product is, you may have to pick a particular state to start with and then expand in the US, right? So those are the kinds of things that you should think about as you look at these markets. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. Thanks.
Right. So an eye-opening thing is that before you go to the US, make sure that you have an access to capital. And when that capital is there, then you can easily be able to maneuver as well. Just a second, my laptop is going out of power. I'll just have to plug it in.
Sure. Meanwhile, I could ask a quick question to Arun. Arun, how important in an early journey of an entrepreneur to have these lot of these certifications or the government approvals like your FDA or CE mark when we are going into selling into hospitals?
So Deepak, I think, see, if you look at medical devices, so every country has its own regulatory approval body. For example, in India, it's CDSCO, in US, it's FDA, in Europe, it's CE, and it's mandatory, right? In that local country. For example, if we are selling in India, we definitely need to have the CDSCO approval. So it is important. But the good part is, for example, when I talk about developing world and the complexity of regulatory approval in comparison to the CE or FDA, in terms of that's less. So I mean, in terms of money or resources, you definitely need less in comparison to that. So you have that early approval, you can start selling in those markets. It's the same what we are doing, like Ritesh said. So we are scaling up in India, but at the same time now we have started setting up distributors in Africa, Malaysia,
Very good.
Indonesia, and 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 the good part is they definitely are welcoming Indian company, because they consider that when you definitely go to Europe or US, I don't know how they welcome the Indian company, but I would say that, for example, I was in Kenya last month, and they were very much welcoming. Okay, this is a product from India, and we have already taken the Kenya regulatory approval, and we started selling there. So becomes, I think, and if you look at also the geography wise, the population wise, the economic wise, it's almost similar. And the problem statement and the solution is very much well fitting when you are solving India problem. In terms of the feature, use case, it's very much similar. So I would say that is what we are doing. Might be different from someone else, but for us, it's little bit working out.
Great.
Got
So
it.
almost 80% of the world, whatever problems we are developing in India would be applicable to almost 80% of the world, except the top 20 if we keep out, and rest of the world is also having the same issue, be it population, be it access to better healthcare, better technologies. In fact, in some of the domains in these days, India has been at the frontier when it comes to fintech and other part of the technology domain. So I wanted to come to you, Arun, regarding how IP is helping you in your journey. You have been into the IP business, and now at Genitri as well, you have got a bunch of patents applications already approved. Some of them are pending, some of them are granted as well. How has IP helped you in marketing or securing capital or launching your products in multiple jurisdictions? Would want to learn from you about this.
Yeah, so I would first of all, thanks to my by chance job, which I landed up after my master's. The 2 year of whole experience of IP at least gave me an idea like why building an IP portfolio around a product is important. So I was serving the big client, big fortune client. So I got an idea in 2 years. And I think as a tech founder, specifically now in MedTech, I am. So from day one, I was aware that, okay, where you can file IP, how you can file IP, what kind of a cost it comes into picture and all. And in last 7 years, if you look at our portfolio, we have around 15 patents filed. Out of that, 6 has been granted.
Very good.
And that ultimately, I would say that my 2 years of experience has helped me there. At least I have not done it, but at least I was having the understanding how this is important going forward in future. But yeah, because of the funding crunch, I have not really filed, at the early stage, I have not filed WIPO, US and Europe. But now, because there's a resource available now, I have started also doing that. But overall, it is really important. From one thing is definitely from the perspective of protecting your technology. So as a founder, I get a confidence. Okay, I have some IP on this feature. And a lot of startups coming up, let's suppose. So at least at some point of time, you will be able to, have that sort of an IP which can protect your innovation. But from the investment point of view, also, I think investors loves it if there is a value in the IP. So they also do evaluate at some point of time. I though love IP, and I highly recommend all my fellow founders and all to go for the IPs and all. And it's really helping, and we will keep building the portfolio. So portfolio is important. It's just not the one patent. So I think that whole portfolio is important around one product.
Very good. Thank you so much for so succinctly and beautifully explaining the importance of IP. I think I'm going to keep this video as like a cut short video of yours on how a health tech founder should focus on IP. And I'm going to be just bombarding this to all the people who are in my network and who are still on the fence of understanding or not realizing the value and the importance of it. Thanks for sharing that. I want to ask Ritesh about it. Since you craft stories for the healthcare industry beautifully, do you also use IP as one of the angles to craft a story for any health tech business? Because you mentioned example of Cure AI, and we filed almost 35 to 40 patent applications for Cure across the globe. Most of them already granted in India, US, Europe as well. So Cure, I guess, has used patents to their benefit a lot, and it helps a lot. So, want to understand from you, how does the narrative changes when you have a patent? Does patent really help in marketing? If yes, how do you use it? Want to learn from you.
Yeah, no, if you're entering the market as a new player, it definitely helps because it gives the comfort level. It's a big issue, right? It's a comfort level thing, both for the market and for the customer, that they are partnering with somebody that has some protection around the technology or the product that they're going to use. And it is, from an investor perspective, a good moat to have, right? It's a moat thing, because then if some competitor comes in, you have a capability of thwarting that competitor with IP. So it is very important, I think. And here in the US, I would say it is paramount because of, the market as it is. You can get a lookalike very, very quickly. So if you've got no protection whatsoever, no
Yes.
moat whatsoever, your business is completely gone, right? So it is very important. The rules are a little different here than the rest of the world, which is fine. But yes, IP is very, very important. And we use it where it's relevant. If it's for example, in the chat, I put a company called Docker, which is just expanded here in the US, and they're flying, really flying, but they have an IP for their platform, which has helped them a lot. Get expansion very, very quickly in the US. Others try to mimic some of the things they were doing as a digital, ad platform, but they've got some specific things. Docker is specifically focused on an ad platform for doctors. And so, when they tell their story, one of the things they say is we are unique and we have an IP base, our IP is protected, it's patented, and all of that stuff. So it is very useful and should be done for sure.
Fantastic. Deepak, what's your take on IP and your views?
No, I think I probably won't be any different than what Arun and Ritesh have already said. So it's very, very important. And for any investor who's been investing in this space, obviously, I mean, there is a leeway. If you are at seed stage, you are a pre-seed stage startup, you would get some leeway from your investor that, yeah, I mean, you would probably in early stage, you don't have money to file some of these things, but having an IP is very, very important. Maybe not doing a filing or going into some other markets and doing those filings should be okay. But as you grow and as you start hitting some of these markets, it's become very, very important for you to start concentrating on that part as well. And obviously, at the time when you have money, you should definitely go and file. So the early entrepreneurs would probably be okay to obviously build the IP, but not, doing, let's say, a filing. That's fine. But late entrepreneurs, definitely, there is a need for them to have this, specifically the moat around it.
Very good, fantastic. Good to hear that everybody is echoing the same things, and we have been also telling to all the founders out there that use IP for predominantly 5 things. 1, to stop your competition. 2, to attract the investors, because investors love IP, as validated by all of you. 3, to use it as a marketing purpose as well, because the moment you say you are IP backed, the customers would love it as well, and they will have more trust, more faith in the product which they are using, because they know this is backed by the government stamp. The government has validated that this technology is safe to use, this technology is great to use. That's why you have the patent on the technology. And then the 5th is to expand your market and also expand your customer share. And above all, in today's time, everybody wants to work for an innovation-driven company. If you have an IP, that is a testament in itself that yes, the company is focused towards innovation. Then you will have great talents coming your way as well, so that you can develop more IP. That's what we also talk about at Photon to all the companies who come to us and are on the fence about should they invest in IP, or should they use that money to hire a new talent who can actually develop the product for them, or should they go to a marketing agency and get the product out, or hire somebody else. Great points. Before we wrap up session, I would love to understand from you if you can just give one tip from your business domain to anybody who's out there and learning from you. I want to start from you, Arun. Specifically, since you are a solo founder, I want to understand from you what tip or what tip you would like to give to fellow solo founders who are out there and still struggling, still not sure whether they should start the journey alone or should they have somebody else with them? What will you advise them?
I mean, very, very tough question. So, I mean, both has pros and cons, I would say. Being solo or having the founder, both from the individual perspective, both has pros and cons. From the investor's perspective, I think it's a red flag. So what I would say that, I mean, if you are really passionate, because ultimately founding a co-founder is like marrying to that guy, or
Right.
that's a marriage. And even that, if you even have some conflict, that's going to a very, very red flag for the whole company. And I have seen a lot of these stories even around my circle. While solo, you have ultimately it's you who's taking decision, and whether it's going on the right direction or wrong direction, it's you who's taking decision. And there are a lot of success stories in the solo founder as well. So, I mean, it's the opinion I have. So if you have a passion, try to find the founder, but try to find, if you can, definitely find the equally passionate guy like you, and somebody who can also bring the other skill which you do not have. That's what I would recommend.
Very good, very good. So it's like a marriage, and the conflict would, of course, break the marriage. And the main advantage of being solo is that all the responsibility, accountability lies on you. But you also touched upon a very good point on which Deepak was laughing. I want to take Deepak's view on that. It's a nightmare or not a blessing for an investor when it comes to a solo founder. How do you look at solo founders, and what challenges does that come up with? And is it okay, not okay? How does investor look at solo founders?
No, sure. No, I mean, I have great respect for people who have been building alone. See, I say this quite often to many of my entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurial journey is anyways a very, very alone journey. It's a very, very taxing journey. There are times when you are actually on the verge of breaking. I think Arun would have seen this, Ritesh would have seen it, you yourself would have seen it. I have seen it within my wife is an entrepreneur. I know her. I have seen this in many of the entrepreneurs who are very, very good friends. And there are things that probably even whatever they try and see, they cannot come and talk to me. They either probably they cannot even go and talk to their
Right.
spouse. There are examples, I don't want to quote them, where the entrepreneur actually had broken down and couldn't come back from. So that becomes very, very important. That's where I tell people that because it's a taxing journey, you probably want to have somebody whom to have a as I have kind of mentioned in my one of the other conversation, 10 o'clock over a whiskey, having a conversation, and a very, very candid conversation that what can we do? We fucked up, what do we do? So I think that's where it is become very, very important. Obviously, other than that, a lot of other things that Arun said, great points. Empathy or sympathy, you're going to build it your own. You are accountable for what you're doing. So, but I think I would say most of the investor set that you would go to, most of them would say that if given a chance, I would probably invest in a 9 out of 10 startups which are at least have 2 founders. So I probably would have the same kind of a bias as well.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much for honestly answering the question. And yes, I do agree. It always helps to have a co-founder. I have a co-founder and I'm blessed to have him. His name is Amit Kaushal. And whenever I'm in doubt with regards to anything, be it personal or professional, he's my go-to guy. And it helps a lot. But I'm sure Arun would have figured out that now he has the entire team. So when I was sitting in Arun's office, he mentioned around 8 people who he can reach out to when it comes to any kind of help which is related to those guys. So that's the kind of team and org structure you would have to have if you are doing it alone. But it's always good to have people around so that you can open up, share things, and maybe move forward fast. I have a closing question to Ritesh. Oftentimes, the founders do not know how much to keep budget for marketing. So what is an ideal marketing budget? If you can answer this question.
So first of all, founders never budget for marketing. Not
That's
don't
why
do
the
it.
question
They
is.
never do it. Everyone I talk to, they're like, "Oh, we didn't think about that," because
Right.
and by the way, rightly so, because you're so focused on building the product or the service or whatever, the marketing of it and that comes second because you're directly selling to someone, probably, right? But I would encourage you to think about absolutely two things: the brand. Whatever brand name you come up with, think of it long term. Close your eyes and imagine your brand. I do this all the time. I say, close your eyes, and I'm going to tell you a name: Gucci. What comes to mind when I say Gucci? Mercedes-Benz. What comes to mind when I say Mercedes-Benz? Johnny Walker Black. What comes to mind, right? So when you create the brand, close your eyes and say, what do I want my customers to imagine this brand to be? What is it that I want to tell them about this brand? And so from a marketing perspective, the first thing is not even marketing, the brand name and the positioning and the values of it. But the second thing is more public relations. How do I get media to pay attention to me? How do I get onto the thought leadership platforms? How do I get onto the TV show, or get when somebody's writing an article about maternal health in the Times, how do I make sure that Arun is quoted as the leader and the thought leader? So think of it more of PR rather than pure marketing as you begin, then start budgeting for marketing afterwards, advertising, promotion, and all the other things. Initially, anywhere from $2,000 to $5,000 a month around paying an agency to be your PR agency. That's what you should think about, getting the word out there, because getting into the media when you're starting up is more important than doing advertising on a full page ad in the New York Times, which will cost you $30,000.
Right. And got it. Great piece of advice to imagine the brand you want to have and just close your eyes and see if you are able to have that visualization, which is one of the great skill to have as well. Great point, great share. I mean, yes, we are already overboard these allotted time. Thank you so much, guys. I've had great pleasure talking to you. So much learnings. I mean, I actually made almost 2 to 3 pages of notes while you guys were discussing and sharing your wisdom with your open heart. I'm before I just conclude, I want to thank you all, people who are joining from different part of the world and watching us live. Thank you so much for being there. All the 4 days have been fantastic. We've been had pleasure to invite great people like Arun, Ritesh, and Deepak today. And at Photon Legal, we are building an IP law firm which is on a vision, which is having a vision to make India a first world nation by helping entrepreneurs protect and leverage their IP. Very few people understand the importance of IP, and at Photon, we want to ensure that we reach out to the masses and to all the persons who can actually make and use their IP and leverage that IP for raising funds, improve the health at different level, and improve the society at large. That's our vision. And thank you so much for coming on board and accepting the invitation. You have been a great giver. I loved hosting you guys.
Thank you, Priyank. It was nice to be on this panel. Thank you, Deepak and Ritesh.
Yes, thank you. Nice to meet you all. Thanks so much.
Same here. Thank you so much, Priyank, and as well as
Stay in touch, guys. Stay in touch. Thank you.
Yes, let's stay in touch. Thank you so much, guys. Bye-bye. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Have a good weekend as well.